So today, I want to talk about how some young kids, they also feel a broken heart. We're not talking about just like a relationship, like as growing up teenagers do, um, even as an young adults, or even adults. You know, get in a relationship, fall in love, get broken hearted, and that's a pain within itself. Um, but one of the things that a child can really feel deep is a broken heart because of one of their parents not being in the picture no more. And what I say about this is, so mom and dad aren't getting along and decide to separate. They're done. Marriage, just normal dating, whatever the cause may be, but there's a child involved. That child, once they get to a specific age, some of those things are become a memory. Some of those things become apparent to them, that they hold a love for that one of their parents, as not one, I should say, as them being a one together. But then one of the parents, when they separate, they decide that they don't want to be involved. Um, Not to genderize, but I see it, you hear it, and it's a lot of the males. You know, they decide to, they just don't want to put that effort. It's I don't know, hard work. It's a lot of responsibility. They get to drop off on their dreams, their goals, whatever they have, whatever the cause may be. And I understand. But the thing is, do you understand the child's point of view? See, all of a sudden you had a child that had both mom and dad together, and they see them, there's maybe arguments and stuff, but they see those moments where they were laughing, where they're enjoying. They see mom and dad, they'd play with them. And then all of a sudden, it's not there from one day to the next, and they don't understand. They don't get the fact that as an adult, we're going through arguments. And unfortunately, in some cases, there's physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, mental abuse in the adult relationship. The child doesn't always see that, and in some cases, they don't even know anything about it besides that mommy and daddy are together. So what happens? This child just seeing that his mom or his dad, they're in a different household, and every time that they want to get associated with them, they're not there. Now the dad or the mom doesn't want to come around. And a scenario like this happens pretty frequently. And it's sad because a child, and I'll put this in the way that I see it the most, and you have the mother, she's working, she's trying to have her goals, going to school. Child has to go to babysitter. Okay, ask the dad if it can help. Nah, I'm busy. Oh, there's something's going on, or I can't. Not this week. That child doesn't know that. The mother might not even say anything about it. But the child just says, man, I didn't get to see my dad this week. Next week again. Same thing. They don't get to see their child. And that child gets this memory of, my mom's always here. My mom's always the one I see. She's the one I have the fun. She's the one that I get yelled at. Believe it or not, a child, even though they're getting yelled at, they're trying to get discipline. Not just, being yelled at for nonsense, but getting yelled at because they're trying to better a child. That still becomes a memory to that child. But when they notice that, hey, my dad isn't even coming around, he doesn't even make the initiative, he doesn't even say happy birthday to me, he doesn't say hello, he's not there no more. That child has just became heartbroken. That child has took that pain and held it deep inside with them. There are some children that get affected by this, in different ways. There are some, when they're little kids, their bowels, like peeing, sometimes you notice in kids that they start wetting the bed, especially at night is typically, they start reacting differently. They start getting very emotional. Maybe they start expressing a lot of anger. Little things like these happen. And what happens as well is not just all because the parent isn't there. Sometimes it's all of a sudden a traumatic moment for them. Mom and dad were together, and all of a sudden they're not. That to them is traumatic. Not in all cases, but in some. But then when you don't have that one parent that you've seen, it begins to affect them over time. If some of you have ever experienced this when you were growing up, that maybe you grew up as, you being with only your mom, only your dad, they're the ones that took care of you, you understand. But what happens and sometimes is that some of these kids, they begin to grow up and they hold anger because maybe they never seen their dad. All they wish is they could maybe see their dad, or they never seen their mom. They wish that they could see their mom. They hold this anger because they feel, why didn't they ever continue to try to look for me or keep a communication? And in some cases, yeah, one or the other parent, they hold a grudge. They don't want, the other parent to see them at all. A big battle. That's a whole nother topic. But this child, when both the mother and the father, there's not that grudge where she's not keeping him away from him and he's not keeping her away from her. That is where that moment for them just starts to unravel. Like, if my mom is giving me an opportunity to see my dad, why isn't my dad trying to take that initiative? If my dad is giving my mom the opportunity to see me, why isn't she taking that initiative? To them, it's those little things that count. It goes little by little, and it grows little by little. See, we hold anger for certain things. And as we grow up, we can't have anger because certain or specific friend did something wrong and we didn't like it. It could have even been a family member we got in an argument with. Whatever the cause may be. But now when a child has that, when that happens to a child, what do? At first, they hold it in, and then it starts to evolve. In some cases, in certain children, they can work that way out because the parent is trying hard to distract their mind, to try to teach them, don't hate them, don't blame them. One day they'll come around, they try doing everything. But in that child's eyes, then they start saying things like, man, well, they never cared about me before. Why would they care about me now? They never took the initiative to try to see me before. Why would they try to see me now? They don't love me. They don't care about me. As a one parent, what do you say to a child like that? When you've been trying to tell your child, hey, don't hate them because they haven't seen you. They'll come around. They're just busy. You try to make excuses for them. You're trying to make the other parent seem okay. But then after a while, you're done. You're out of excuses. You can't. That child then kind of sees it like, nah, they ain't even going to come around. If you know somebody that goes through this, that they're the ones that don't even try to see their own child, you can't force them. It's something that has to grow from within. Literally, they have to either, in the perspective for a man, they got to man up. For a woman, they got to bring that motherly love. You can't force anybody to do anything. The more you force them, sometimes the more they resist. If you're the one that doesn't even take the time to see your child, well, let me tell you this. If you're the one that ever lived through that and you never liked the fact that you had to see a single mother or a single father raise you up, why are you going to be the same way to a child of your own? Sometimes it's time to lead in a better direction, regardless of what you came up from. Because who knows, maybe your child would give you the opportunity and forgive you. If you're the one trying to help out your child, and you see that, and a lot of women do, and that's what's sad, is that there is more and more men that are growing up and they're actually noticing like, hey, it doesn't matter what I did, it's time to take my responsibility. That's great. I love to see that, because growing up I used to see a lot more of my friends that they were raised by a single mother. And that, to me, I felt a pain because I'm like, I don't know how I would feel if I would never get to see my dad. I don't know how it would be if I would never even got to ever meet my mom. That to me is pain. And I can only imagine what a child can feel. I've never been through that. But when I've been to different areas and talked to kids, it's sad. There's one child that I have in my heart and in my mind daily because he holds an anger because his mom nor his dad are in the picture. That to me is even more painful because the dad, I don't know, just didn't want to take that responsibility. The mother just, I don't know, doesn't have that motherly love, whatever the case may be. But that child has holding anger that's grown and grown, and he expresses this anger by, back talking, by fighting his younger brothers. He has a grandmother that truly loves him to death, but yet he is mad at her. And that is unfortunate because this is the one lady that is willing to do anything and everything she can for this child, but the child has the anger at the wrong person. The one biggest thing though is this child shouldn't even have any anger to any of these people. I understand the fact that these children, they feel like if we as grown-ups, we get angry for something that happened at work, something that happened at home, we got in a fight with our parents, we get in a fight with a friend, sometimes we blow things out of proportion. Imagine all that same anger into a child's mind, into a child's heart. There's sometimes that we get overwhelmed. And I understand this child that he goes through so much. And the thing is, at first it begins with tears. They sometimes cry it out. They relieve themselves. They're crying and wondering, why does this have to happen to me? Why can I not be with my mom? Why can I not be with my dad? Why don't they love me? That is sometimes one of the most painful words that they repeat in their heads. Why don't they love me? Why aren't they here with me? What did I do wrong that made them not want to stay in my life? As an adult, we go through our own stresses. Go through work. If you got such goals, you're trying to go to school, go and try to work a full-time job, you have kids, it's tough. But the thing, to let a child feel like it's his fault that you're not there, that's painful. That is not just painful in a mental, but just emotional, but it's almost as a physical abuse to them. You're hurting their heart internally that they don't understand why they have to go through this and they carry it on. I talked before about relationships. I've talked about goals. And in some kids, they feel that the relationship when they grow older is nothing different than what they know. They may not know what a motherly love is. They may not know what it is to have a father that's going to want to do things with them. And I will tell you, for all the single parents out there, where the other person is not in the picture, I salute you. I am proud of you that you are doing everything possible for your child. No matter how hard it is, do not ever give up on your child. No matter how difficult it is in your life, do not give up. Because that child is looking at you and sees that you are working hard. Maybe right now you might see tantrums, you might see anger, you might have a teenager that doesn't even want to speak to you, but you are still giving your all for them. One day, they're going to realize that there was one parent that was right by their side the entire time. It's not to hold any pride over the other parent. It's not to hold this trophy over the other parent. In all actuality, it's to raise a child to do better in their life than whatever we ever lived. and whatever you imagine for them. If you imagine this child to do amazing things, this child can do anything that's possible. But you have to try and to raise them up. There is resources out there. There is other people that will gladly give advice. But just don't ever give up on this child. No matter what he does wrong. No matter what she does wrong. When I go to these schools that I've talked to, I've seen the eyes of these kids. And some of them, they feel when I talk to them that, man, my dad hasn't been around. My mom hasn't been around. And I will tell you, here's another scenario that hurts me. Because it happens a lot now. There might be a parent that went down the wrong path, got into drugs, gangs, whatever the case may be, ends up in jail. And that, I will tell you, is so painful to see these children to just look and be like, man, my dad's in jail, and I haven't seen him. I don't even know when they're going to get out. I hope they still love me. They might write to them. Then they might actually take a visit. But the thing is, it's not the same. In those type of things, I will tell you, I hold nothing against you or nothing like that, because anybody that goes down a bad path can always redirect and end up in a better path. It's that part that you have to understand, that if you failed, you did something wrong, it's time to try again and do it correctly. Because when a child sees that, man, I can't even see my mom, that to them, that's hurt. That hurts. When they say I can't see my dad, that hurts. And when you have anger, something happens and you retaliate, and you end up in jail. Before you ever go and even do anything, you should think about those consequences. Like, am I ready to leave my child behind? Am I ready to let these things that I've done affect my child's life? We as an adult, we're already growing up and already, started living our life. It's not done. But you've already lived more of a life than your child has. If your child's a teenager, you're like, oh, just a couple more years. Like, so what? So what? So what is that? Your child still has the opportunity to do some amazing things, and he wants somebody there to be able to see and experience those moments with them. I know for a fact that if any of my parents would have ever not been in my life, it'd be hurtful. The fact that, some of these kids, all they want is love. They want love from their parent. And when one of them isn't there, they don't get it. They don't know why. I go back to the relationships, because when that child grows up, and this is not every child, there is some children that they do amazing things and they go down a whole different path. They take whatever from the past and they just let it go and redirect themselves. But there is some that they grow up, and when they jump into a relationship, and when they end up, like, let's say a young man gets a girl pregnant, his thing might be, man, I ain't ready for this. I still want to go have fun with the boys. I still want to go out and party. I still want to go try to get money. I'm not ready for this. The only thing they remember is, man, if my dad was able to dip out, my mom was able to handle it, their mom can handle it. That's not in every situation. I'm not saying that's like that in every case, but that does happen. And there is kids that have that mentality because, like, well, my dad did it. My mom did that to us. And it shouldn't be like that. But who's there to teach him? Because sometimes, even as a friend of that family member, do you take that initiative to help, to teach that child? It doesn't even have to be yours. It does not have to be your child for you to teach him in a better life. When I talk to these kids, I always tell them, don't hold a grudge of them. If you don't like what you've been experiencing in your life, if you don't like the fact that your dad is not in the picture, if you don't like the fact that your mother's not in the picture, let it go. Let that go. They brought you into this world for a specific reason, because you have a purpose. You are the one that was given the opportunity to come into this life, and you have the opportunity to do whatever you want to do. And don't hold that grudge. There's some kids that they don't even listen. Some kids that don't care. They don't care about anybody else because they don't think nobody else understands that they just want the love from their mother or their father that they can't see. And when that child is, let's say, 7 years old, 8 years old, and the mom or the dad just left them, they don't comprehend that. They do not. It becomes very difficult to understand why all of a sudden they leave and they don't want to come back. You can chase the money. You can chase your goals. You can even chase for somebody else in your relationship. That green grass on the other side of the road, you can chase that. But you're going to leave more of a burn mark in your child's heart if you don't even try to take the initiative to acknowledge them and try to do things with them. Some of these kids, all they want is a simple hug, simple I love you, some time to talk. It's simple little things. And I will say, if you weren't ready for the responsibility, then why do anything? Why do anything with somebody if you weren't even going to be prepared for the responsibility that could occur? Maybe that wasn't the person you wanted to be with. Maybe that's not the person you want to have a child with. I will tell you, but that probably wasn't the thing that you was thinking about. But that child is here now. Who cares about the past to them? Who cares if you wanted to be with their mom or you want to be with their dad? They don't care about that. What they care about is, I want to be loved. You start teaching them that love. You start growing up slowly with them. And you start playing games. You start spending a little bit of time with them. They get to learn that. You can't take something away from somebody all of a sudden and expect them not to have any emotional effect. It's like taking anything from an adult. If you have a house, you have a car, you have a job, whatever it may be, you have all these things. In a snap of a finger, it's completely gone. Are you going to be able to handle that? Are you going to be able to stay emotionally stable? You'll probably break down. You'll probably feel this drop of your heart down into your stomach. Like, what am I going to do? Or maybe all of a sudden you're just like, okay, I got to need to breathe. And just maybe you go through a small panic. It's not that bad. Okay, but you still went through it. Imagine that. Because that same pain is the same type of pain that these children can feel. Where do we see these children? All over. These kids from elementary school, middle school, high school, they feel this type of pain. They go and experience this sometimes on a daily because they're just waiting. And if any of you have ever seen any movies where one of the parents just leaves and you see this child looking out the window just waiting for the other parent to come back, that happens. You see a child that is sad, that is hurt, and they just wait and wait and wait, waiting for that day that the parent's going to come back for them. That is one of the things that they deal with. So what do you do? How do you make it better? I would say, like I said before, if you are the parent, single parent that's been handling all of this, continue doing what you're doing. Being there for them. Being open and communicating with them. Because that child is going to be needing the most amount of communication. If they have that type of anger where they just have a hatred towards the other parent, You have to bring that level down. And I will tell you, even if you do not like the other parent, if you're the mother and do not like the father, if you're the father and do not like the mother, who cares? That does not even matter. A child should not have any hatred to their mother or their father, regardless if that person said, I don't even want my child. Who cares? Teaching them that you, no matter what, still have that love for them. And teaching them that no matter what happens, if the other person never wants to come back, to let that go. When they grow up, it can blossom into something different. Into something that when they grew up, they won't repeat that to their child. And like I said, in some cases, they automatically start going into a better direction. And in others, they just repeat. They repeat what they lived. And they shouldn't. They shouldn't have to. But who was there to teach them? You know, there is even some kids that they say, you know, like they go into the gangs, go into jail, they're locked up, and then all of a sudden they say, you know, the one thing that I would have wished was I would have had that father figure. Really, if I would have had my father to be there and to not let me do the things that I did, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now. I had to see my mother cry every day for the pain that I caused her. By leaving the house, by going out and drinking with friends, because I hated my dad, screaming at my mom. You know, so this is men that have said this because of when they were children, things happened. There's even some females where, you know, young ladies experience the fact that one of the parents leaves. They might experience that their mother had left them. Their father is working hard, doing everything. And, you know, a girl's going through her transformation as a young lady, and there's nobody to confide with, nobody to talk to. The father feels maybe awkward to tell some of these things. So she grows up, she becomes to get just a hard shell around her. Because maybe the father doesn't communicate as much. Who knows? But when she grows up, she has this hard casing around her. Maybe it's that young lady that's very independent, very hardworking, determined to do everything she can. She's trying to follow a direct path because maybe she doesn't like the fact that the way her mom treated, the way her mom never came back. But she might not give the same communication, the same type of love that she could have experienced. You know, there's so many factors, so many little things that can change a child's mind when they grow up. And every child's different. Boy, girl, whatever. Everyone's different. But there are certain pieces that can affect a child across the board in the same way. If you're that parent that's watching this and you're not in the picture with your child, you don't even take the initiative to see them, it's time to change. They're possibly waiting for you. Possibly, they might have a hatred towards you that they don't want to see you. But just because they don't want to, doesn't mean you don't try to make the initiative. Even if the mother says, you've never seen them for the past 7 years, why are you going to take the time now? Because it's time to change. It's time to show that child that, you know, you understand what you did wrong. If you can have the opportunity to tell them right now, why not? Why wait another 10 years and now you have to make even a better reasoning why it took you so long, an extra 10 years when you had the opportunity to go and speak to them or to become part of their life. There's some people that even when they get up to, let's say, age 20, age 30 or 40, and never even seen the parents, and all of a sudden they want to send them a mail, they want to just visit, they want to do something. Sometimes it's too late. Sometimes they might say, I already grew up without you. What would you want to do for my life now that you never did before? This is some of the things that some of these people grow up to see, to experience, to say. I don't like seeing these kids go through this. And I don't like seeing adults when they tell me, hey, when I was growing up, this would happen. And man, my dad or my mom ever came back to the picture. Nah, I'd shut that door in their face. I understand their pain. I understand why they say it. But it shouldn't be like that. Or then you get the ones that they find out that the other parent that was never in the picture passed away. And all they say is, I just wish I could have met them. I wish I could have just said hello to them. I probably would have forgave them if they would have just made the initiative of speaking to me, even if it's been so many years and they said I'm sorry. Or anything in the past that they would have done if they never would have seen me for so many years like they have now, I would have forgave them completely and would have left that in the past if they just would have tried to spoken up. So if you're that person that hasn't seen your child, when are you going to take the time to see them? I don't know how some people are able to just see a child's eyes and not do anything. Like, just not feel no pain when you see this child, as far as you see them, you come up to them, first time ever, you haven't seen them in so many years, and you see how like confused they are. How can you deal with that pain? That pain, and I know some might fear it. I feel like, well, they haven't seen me for so long. Take the time. Take the time to grow with them. Don't force yourself onto them, because if you didn't take that small increments, you can't force all those years of love, or all those years of caring, all those years that you want to spend with them now. You can't just dump that all on their face in the first minute you see them. But if you don't have no pain, that's horrible. And I will tell you, the child, it's not money. If you're a guy or girl and you're paying child support, but you don't even want to see your child, if you just want to dump that money over to the other parent, shame on you for that. And the reason I say that is because if you think that just giving money is gonna raise a child, it's not. Money isn't gonna just raise a child. It takes a lot more to just raising a child than just money. Money is a small factor to the big picture. It takes the time to spend with them. The schoolwork, there's the doctor visits, there's spending time with them, simple as just playing a video game, a board game, spending outside, going on a walk. There's so many little things that take part in a child's life. So if you are just thinking that just giving money is going to take care of that child, it is not. If you don't want to see them, you just want to hand out money, that's not right. But so be it. That's your decision. And for the mother or the father that's doing it by themselves and is getting that child support, or maybe not even getting any, just keep pushing. Just keep on pushing. Because at the end of the day, you gave it all you had. If you see that child grow up and do some amazing things, or do things that you didn't even expect that they were going to be wonderful kids, you did it. You accomplished of raising that child, because you could have been one of the ones that said also, the other parent left, I can't do this by myself, I'm leaving too. And when they put a child up for adoption, or in some cases, they just let that child go and just dump it in somebody's house and never come back. Or they just leave a baby in somebody's front porch. Those type of things are what some people do. And if you were the one that continued on, be proud of yourself. No matter how difficult it is, be proud of the way that you are growing. It is difficult. It's going to be super hard. But at the end of the day, like I said, you have just been creating a child in a wonderful way by teaching them. It's time that we see these children, they have pains that they deal with. It will go into a depression, it will go into an anxiety, they go into hatred. Some build a really bad anger. Some become into a substance abuse. Some even as well begin to do self-harm. And some will even take their own life away. And that is where it hurts to me the most. It hurts when somebody passes away. And I know for many, there's somebody that you truly hold dearly to your heart. Maybe your children, and there might not be one, it might be a lot. Certain family, you hold them dearly to you. And when they pass away, it hurts. But when a child starts growing up and they start holding an anger, and their way to relieve it is to finally say, I'm done. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of waiting for my mom or my dad and they're never coming. I just don't know why they don't love me. And they take their life away. That hurts because there was so much opportunity still for them. It wasn't a natural way for them. They decided to end it there. To me, I don't put a blame on them, but I sometimes wish that they could keep going and just be able to have somebody to say to them, let that go, and show them what you are capable of doing. Because with or without them, you can do amazing things. But some of these kids, it takes a lot to get that through them because they have a lot of pain. I'm not saying that every child, has to go through that. I'm not saying that every child goes through that. But there is children that go and experience this and then finally that's their way and their method. When I have talked to some kids and they've told me that by my experiences, by me talking of what I've been through in my life, and even though it wasn't going through that, they were able to take their life and any experience that they had and direct it in a different direction. In a sense that when they decided they wanted to take their life away, or they started to plan for it, and when somebody started telling them that their life is worth it, to reroute their anger, they didn't realize that there's a lot of capabilities for them. And when there is one person that keeps continuing on and pushing them into that direction of positivity, you would be surprised of the amount of things that these children can do. It doesn't happen from one day to the next. And I will constantly tell you that. Don't ever expect that these children are going to be able to do things and to let go of things from one day to the next. Just like you can't let go of something from one day to the next or change from one day to the next, don't expect them to. But you constantly being there for them, that is what truly makes an impact. If there's any children out there that have experienced this and you don't know how to talk to them, I am one that would be willing as a mentor, as just somebody for them to speak to. There's people that I know, there's resources out there, there's so many options. But don't ever think that you can just give up on a child. You'll be surprised how much giving up takes an effect to them. But it's more easier to never experience that, to never let them experience that. Just like how we go through our own situations, and we sometimes wonder why that one person still stuck around, listening to all of our stress, all of our anger, allowing us to vent to them, and they didn't leave. When that becomes a shocker, But at the end, you thank them and you appreciate them. That is how a child is. Because they see that one person never gave up on them and had high hopes for them. There is a movie that I hold always dearly to me, and that's Freedom Riders. And for the fact that there was one person that never gave up on these children, that to me is the same way I look at all these kids. Any adult, any teen, any young adult, whoever. Because of the fact that all it really takes is one person to stay there, keep their ground no matter how difficult it gets. And it can make a difference. So for all the single parents out there, continue doing what you're doing. I am proud of you. Don't give up on your child. You are doing an amazing job. For the parents that aren't there, the ones that aren't in the picture, it's time to make a change. It's time to make that movement now. Don't wait another 10 years to try to make that move. Just make that move now. Make a difference on that child's life now and let them know that it is time now that you want to be there. Forgiveness is one of the things that you will hope for, but that is not going to be on your decision. But if you don't make that move, you will never find out if that child will ever forgive you. I'll leave that with you guys for the end of the night. And I really hope that you're able to look at this in a whole different world. The fact that these kids do experience a lot. The same emotions that we deal with, the same pains, everything. As an adult, they can feel as well too. But don't let it be from a simple fact of one of them not being in the picture. Don't let them carry on like that. So I hope you guys have a good night. I hope that you continue to push forward, or I hope that you reroute into a more positive way. Good night.